Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students and welcome to online support program 2020 week 3 for class 8th. Today's lecture is for chemistry. My name is Munazza Nasir and I am from Hamza Army Public School and College Boys. Today's topics will be representative particles which is present on page number 17 and 18 of textbook, and the science of alchemy which is present in the form of society, technology and science on page number 18. Objectives for today's lecture include the students to know about the definition and identification of representative particles, as well as for them to know about science of alchemy as a precursor to modern day chemistry. The previous knowledge required for today's lecture includes that the students should know about the definition of matter, as to what is matter as anything that has weight and occupies space. And they should also know about the following terms: element, compound, formula unit and mixture. The term representative particles means particles or species that are present in a substance. Now we all know from previous lectures the substance can be an element, it can be a compound, or it can be an ionic compound. If a substance is an element, its representative particle will be an atom, because same kind of atoms combine to form an element. For example, carbon, it is an element and it exists in the form of carbon atoms. If a substance is a compound, it is usually made up of same kind of molecules. So a molecule is a representative particle of a compound. For example, water. Water is a compound and it is made up of H2O molecules known as water molecules. And if our substance is an ionic compound, or a compound that is made up of positive or negative ions, since it has very different properties from something made up of molecules, which is not made up of ionic compound. Previously I said that molecules are representative particles of compound because molecules are not made up of ions. But if our molecule is such kind of molecule that is made up of that is made by combination of different ions, it is known as an ionic compound, and such kind of molecule is known as formula unit. So ionic compounds are compounds which contain positive and negative ions in them. Substance that is formed by positive or negative ion, such kind of molecule is known as a formula unit, or a compound that is made up of positive and negative ions. Since it behaves very differently from those who are not made up of ions, it is known as a formula unit. For example, sodium chloride, NaCl, table salt, which we use in our houses every day. It is made up of sodium ion and chloride ion, and NaCl exists as formula. You should learn it from today's lecture how to identify representative particles. Usually when we are drawing representative particles, two different types of representative particles are usually drawn for substances, elements and compounds. To identify representative particles from their figure, we should know that in a figure, in a diagram of a substance, if particles has atoms of similar size, this diagram is for an element. But if the figure shows atoms of a different size, this diagram corresponds to a compound. In other words, elements have same size atoms in them in their figures when we try to identify them, and compounds have atoms of different size. Here there are some figures of some representative particles. You can see in figure A, two atoms are combined together, and we can see by the figure the two atoms that are combined together in part A of the figure are of similar size. So this A, whatever it is an element. Now looking at the substance B, you can see one circle is bigger from the other two. Two different kind of circles are drawn, two different size of atoms are drawn. Such kind of a substance is a compound. In a similar way, substance C is an element, again similar sized atoms. Substance D is also an element, similar size of atoms. Substance E is also an element, two atoms combined together which are of similar size. And in substance F, you can clearly see that three atoms are of similar size, but central atom is larger in size as compared to others. So though the substance F is a compound. Now we'll talk about another topic in this lecture. We'll talk about a science known as alchemy. Alchemy is a precursor to chemistry, you can say. Nowadays we call it a pseudoscience or a false science. The word pseudo means false. Alchemy is a precursor to chemistry because this alchemy is where the chemistry of today was born from. It existed during 600 and 1600 AD, and the scientists who studied alchemy at that time were known as alchemists. Alchemists were obsessed with the idea. They were convinced that cheap metals can be turned into pure gold. They tried and tried for thousands of years to do that, but they were not successful. So, since they were not successful, it did not lead to addition of any useful knowledge to chemistry. That is why during 600 to 1600 AD, we do not find any important knowledge that was added to the knowledge of chemistry nowadays. But we do find something useful because some useful techniques were discovered at that time. These are scientific techniques that are still used in laboratories nowadays. These techniques involve distillation, sublimation and extraction. You will study about them in detail in the coming lectures. So students, that's it for today's lecture. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.